Hello, I'm Tim Harris. This is Julie Harris, and this is Real Estate Coaching Radio.
That's right. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Thanks again for popping by. Hit that like button, and don't forget to leave your comments and questions so we can get right back with you.
We will. Thank you for continuing to make our podcast, Real Estate Coaching Radio, the #1 listened to podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. And let us know what you think about this video. Leave your comments below. Thank you.
Hello and welcome back. This is Tim Harris. We've got a very, very special presentation for you today, a very special podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, we are interviewing somebody who I've wanted to get on the podcast for a long time, Dan Lesniak. And Dan and his wife, Keri Shull, are one of the most successful real estate teams in the country. By most successful, let me put this in perspective. Last year, they sold, wait for it, $732 million worth of real estate. So almost $1 billion in closed transactions last year alone. Extraordinary. And the reason that one of the main reasons that I want you guys to meet Dan is because I want you to realize Dan is just like all of us. I mean, Dan is he was in the Navy. He is somebody who was told he could never get into sales. I want you to talk about that, Dan. He's someone who people have said to him, Dan, you'll never be a good salesperson. In his first year in real estate, he sold over $20 million in real estate. So his hero's journey is similar to what many of you are working on in your own lives. And so, Dan, welcome to today's podcast.
Thank you, Tim. I'm stoked to be on here and to share my story, and hopefully your listeners will get some inspiration, maybe some learning out of it. So I'm fired up, and I've been wanting to be on this show with you for quite some time now.
I appreciate that. And I apologize for not having you on sooner. And so listeners, if the audio is not as good as it normally is, it's because Dan's schedule worked out. My schedule worked out. Julie and I aren't in our studio. I'm sitting here in the kitchen of our cabin in North Carolina. I could schedule it, Dan, and I'm not going to miss this opportunity. And you guys are about to discover why. So Dan, I want to start out by having them understand, I touched on this, but I'll set this up a little bit. One of our most listened to podcasts that we've ever done was a series of podcasts on how you could be ultra successful in real estate as an introvert. Getting to know you, I would say that you definitely are more on the introverted scale and the personality sequence, right? So could you explain to folks, yeah, right. Well, I'll tell you, it is fascinating that some of the most successful people in real estate actually are introverts who trained themselves basically to be more versatile. And that's definitely what you are. So can you talk a little bit about that and maybe drill down on that story I was sharing with them when you had all these, people tell you that you would never make it in sales, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah. So I think when you think of a lot of times people think I'm introverted, right? I'm an introverted person. So therefore I can't go out and meet people and can't do sales. And I don't think that's not how I define introvert, by the way. I think extroverts get energy from being around people. I think introverts get drained by doing a lot of it, right? So in other words, I can really want to do it, right? And want to meet people, want to present to them how I can benefit them with my service or product, right? I think any introvert can do that. I just think at the end of the day, you get a little bit drained from that, whereas an extrovert gets energy from that. So I did have an introverted personality. I was in the Navy and submarines, engineering background, did business school and at Georgetown while I was at the working at the Pentagon, and I thought I would get this big consulting job with McKinsey, Bain, BCG, one of these highly thought luxury brand consulting companies, basically, right? And it turned out none of them were hiring in 2010, 2011, or not at a big enough pace, but they were still interviewing a lot. So I got tons and tons of interviews, and I kept getting this feedback that we think you're great on the technical aspects, but we don't think you'd be good at sales. We think you're too reserved. We think you're too much of an introvert. Maybe they were thinking, right? So who knows, right? At the time, I had a consulting job for the government. And I asked a government contractor in DC. So I asked some of these interviewers, what should I do, right? I want another shot at this. I don't believe you, right? I think I'd be good at this job. And they said, well, go get another experience completely unrelated that might develop your sales background. And at the time I was buying what was my fifth home in my lifespan. I bought my first at the age of 23 with a VA loan, $180,000 in Jacksonville, Florida area, if you can believe that. And so I was buying my fifth home in the Arlington area, and I thought, well, this is the fifth time I've done this. I always do a lot of the negotiation. I was one of those annoying clients, that would pester the agent for part of the commission. And I thought, I'll get my real estate license, which I did. And I thought it would just be some sort of little side hustle, right? Well, because I had this full-time job, I decided to market specifically just to my building, 180 condos, nothing more, nothing less. And the strategy worked pretty well. Within a few months, I had more commission in my pipeline than my contracting job was going to make in a year. So I had this 90-day commission pipeline that was better than a year of salary. So I remember the day I quit my job. It was one of the most liberating, freeing moments of my life when I told my boss I was quitting, and he asked, "Is there anything we can do to keep you?" Because for them, it's just margin, right? Like they're paying you something and billing the government like 2x. So like they need bodies, right? So I told him, no, there's nothing you can do, and it just felt so liberating, so free. And I went on that year I got half the market share in that building, so I got like 11 or 12 million of sales just in one building, and 10 million more, and mostly in the same zip code, places really close. So I did $500,000 of GCI and never really had to get in a car in my first year. So that's how I got to where we are. And yeah, I think introverts can do quite well in this industry.
Well, first of all, I should have said this before, but thank you for the service to our country. That's number one. Number two, Julie and I are both introverts, and Julie more than me, had to train ourselves to become more extroverted. So it's now some of you guys who are natural extroverts, you're thinking to yourselves, why are we talking about this? Because chances are you have an introvert in your life, maybe your kid, maybe your spouse, what have you, that is introverted. And unfortunately, they have pigeonholed themselves into thinking, and maybe societal pressures have pigeonholed themselves into thinking that they're only capable of what introverts do, like working in a nuclear sub, for example. But the reality of it is you can do anything in your life. The key is to work to being versatile. The key is to work to having sales skills. So Dan, what was between you deciding that you were going to be in real estate, you were going to, market and, work into this selling condos, it sounds like, in the building you were living in, you had to, as an introvert, I would assume, have a high level of confidence in what you were saying to them before you actually had conversations, or were you actually willing to just jump into the deep end without necessarily knowing how to swim? What was your plan to actually get started?
Yeah, my plan was to, I understood these people, right? Like everybody in the area kind of has some shape or form of a job that revolves around the federal government. They're in a certain price range if you're in the, the same building. All right. So I was one of them, right? I knew what their life was like. I knew the lifestyle they liked and being walkable to different areas. And, so I really knew the audience, and, I would go in knowing that I'd go in with like my resume, like it was a job application. Like I put my, in my listing packet, I would have, I went to, the Naval Academy, then Georgetown. And I would give them like my, where I worked and what I was doing now. And I would give them my whole resume and really communicate the message that I'm a competent professional just like you, and I can get the job done. So I did go in there with confidence and, presenting to them like that I'm one of you, and I know how to get the job done just like you know how to get your job done.
So you and Keri have a huge social following. You guys have your own coaching business. You've written a best-selling book. You've got all this, high level of achievement outside of even selling real estate, or certainly your military and your other career. But it's fascinating. I want listeners to really drill down on what he just said. One of the tendencies, and we'll move off the introverted subject here in a second. One of the tendencies of an introverted person is they're going to take too long to get started. They're going to basically be in this stage of, needing to learn more, need to get my systems organized, need to know what to say, role play forever, get my presentations down, work on my brand, work on my logo, got to make 14 more TikTok videos. In other words, they're always looking for more stuff to do before they actually start doing the stuff that they should have been doing in the first place, which is having direct conversations with, decision-making adults about buying and selling real estate. And what I want everyone to hear, because it's really important, especially for those of all of us introverted folks, is that you did not wait to be perfect at what you wanted to do. You just jumped into the deep end and you did it. And in the process of doing it, you learned what you needed to know. In other words, you did not wait to know and then get into work. You learned while you were earning. Did I just summarize it effectively?
Yeah, I lost the first 2 or 3 listings I went on. So yeah, it didn't happen right away. I got good at hunting and good at focusing. And, back then I would look up Zillow, make me moves. We were in an inventory constrained environment that year. So I would find buyers and then find out what kind of home they were looking for and then go find them off market. So I got very task oriented and process oriented. I do think that's an advantage that introverts have, is that I think introverts can get very task oriented and get the job done. And so I think that if you really hone in on that, lean on that, I think that's an area as an introvert that you can use as an advantage. I think extroverts, on the other hand, sometimes can get too people focused, which is great. And, you should obviously love people, care about the relationships, but I think sometimes they let that get in the way of moving that person forward in the process, right? And closing them on what is ultimately good for them, for what they want.
In other words, the introverted person is going to take more time, have a deliberate plan, create and then find a system that works. Hopefully not through trial and error. Hopefully they're going to, shorten the path by signing up for, coaching and training so they can follow a path that's going to get them up the mountain the quickest. And then I agree with what you said. Once an introvert has a plan that works, they then work the plan. Generally speaking, they're going to earn consistently. They're natural at doing what they don't want to do, and they don't want to do it at the highest level. Whereas an extrovert is going to be naturally wanting to do more social stuff, things that don't necessarily have a direct correlation between effort and results. So let's move on. Now, I, started the show by telling all of them that you guys sold almost $1 billion in real estate in 1 year. That makes you one of the top. Where were you guys on the national team list of biggest, brokers? It was like top 10, wasn't it?
I believe so. I think they keep changing the categories on there. I don't even know if I really look at that anymore. I'm more business oriented than I consider that kind of a vanity number.
It is,
but yeah, somewhere I think over the years it's been anywhere from top 10 to top 30. We're usually in that range somewhere.
Yeah, Wall Street Journal is the list I was thinking of. So so that was your first year in real estate. You owned the game. Your broker then fires you. What happened?
Yeah, well, so back to the numbers business, right? I got pretty smart about title companies. I had a client who wanted to get out of corporate law. I thought, there's other brokers that have these title companies that agents can buy into, right? And have shares of. Well, I talked to one of my attorney clients and he's like, yeah, we can do that. I have some title background. And so I ended up forming a title company, started selling shares to agents in my office. The broker didn't like that because he had his own exclusive title company. He told me it was illegal, by the way, which I'm like, well, that's interesting because this national brand down the street's doing it. Are they flagrantly violating the law, right? Which I doubted. So I had a 72-hour ultimatum to either disband it or leave. So I walked out of that office and up the street and joined Keller Williams.
So you were at Keller. So that's where you met Keri, correct?
Yeah. Keri was, she moved from, she started her brokerage career at Remax and then had, I think she moved to like 6 to 8 months prior to that. So she was kind of new at Keller Williams. She was number one in the office. And the first thing the team leader there told me to do was, I like what you're doing with the title company. Keri's not using ours. You should try to recruit her to use your title company. So that was that was how I met Keri. I was pursuing her for her title business.
So it turns out you're a very good recruiter because now you guys have 3 little kids.
Four. We actually have 4.
Oh, 4. Well, that was
Yeah,
fast.
4
I thought it was 3
kids.
yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No.
Sorry. Yeah. So as far as you guys,
we met at. I was gonna say we met at Keller Williams. Started dating shortly after, and I think within a year and a half we were married. So it didn't take too long, and we merged our teams at the time. And about a year and a half later, we went and formed our own independent brokerage. So when we left Keller Williams, we were number 4 in the world, I believe, for them in total sales volume. And then I think we were doing 150, 200 million at that time. Like, it was climbing fast. And then we left 8 years ago, started our own brokerage, and have built out a pretty large team ever since.
Well, 40 agents, right? So let's, I know some people are thinking, I'm sorry?
I think it's closer to 50 actually, but yeah.
Okay. Sorry. So listeners, there's a little bit of a delay. There's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. So let me take a half step back for those who are now feeling overwhelmed by the fact that you guys are so big. It took you from the second you got your license to, how many years have you been in the business total?
About 10 and a half right now.
How long did it take for you to earn $1 million in commissions?
Gross or net?
Net's my next question.
Okay. I think gross, we hit it in 2014, and then net I think was 2015. So I think it was 2.5 years to get to gross, and 3.5 years to get to net for that number.
Okay, so that's amazing, right? So let's explain to the listeners, and Dan, you're the MBA guy from Georgetown, right? Not me. So explain to listeners who are just getting started, obviously gross versus net. Everyone assumes they know what that means, but could you please explain to them on a very, using real estate math, what that actually means?
Yeah. So when I talk gross commission income, I'm talking like how much commission, came in. When I like the total revenue, right? If you will, like how much did buyers and sellers pay to us? When I'm talking net income, I'm talking about, okay, we paid out this much money, had this much expenses. What was our actual real profit, right? Because I think sometimes the industry focuses too much on sales volume or gross commissions, and at the end of the day, it's what you're able to take home, and really at the end of the day, it's what you're able to save.
100%. And that's one of the things I'm hoping we can get to on this interview. If not, we'll do it on another one. It's all the amazing things you and Keri have done to make yourselves into deca millionaires, from having a very effective cash flowing business, having lots of profit, then reinvesting that into things that compound your wealth and obviously make you more profit. And you guys are, incredibly effective at that. And that's obviously one of the reasons you've been so successful. But it's a fascinating thing because not a lot of agents realize that at the end of the day, your real estate brokerage or your real estate team, the product that you produce in your business is happy customers and sold homes and all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, if you really drill down, the product that you're producing in your real estate business is profit. And if you're not producing profit in your business, you don't really have a business. You have what we call a nonprofit business. So if your goal is to have enough profit left over that you then can reinvest that money and compound your wealth, rental properties, apartment syndications, all these things that these guys do, VRBOs, you're going to have a big profit margin. And Dan touched on this. The industry is obsessed with how many houses did you sell? Or, what was your dollar volume? But, once you are in this business for any amount of time, especially as you experience, market undulations, you quickly realize what matters more than anything is your net income. Because with that net income, like you guys could, Dan and I know agents, all of us know agents that will talk about, I earned, $3 million, or we sold 300 homes last year. This is an example I came across. Dan and I were on a call earlier. There's, teams out there and brokers out there that will earn $1 million in commission, and the team leader or the broker will maybe earn 160,000 net. And, that's not bad actually, because most brokerages have a net of less than 3%. So million commissions equals 30 grand. But let's say you're an efficient team, and this is a good example. You earn $1 million, you're keeping around 150 grand. I want listeners to really internalize what I just said, because it really is powerful. Because here's the reason why. If you earn around 225 to 230 grand, you will actually have the same net income as the agent this is the conversation we just had with Amanda, right? You'll have the same net income as the agent who has the team that's earning $1 million. So look, nothing against forming teams, nothing against hiring staff, nothing against building your brand, nothing against any of those things, but just go into it with eyes open. You will have to do more of the boots on the ground type work when you don't have a team, but your profit margins are going to be 75, 85, 90% versus when you have a team, you're going to you're going to hope that they're going to be around 12 or 15%. Not judging, just asking you to make a decision with eyes open, because this is a lot of agents get into this industry and they feel, pressures from everywhere to form a team. But if you're wanting to form a team, go into it knowing what the financial implications are down the road. Did I encapsulate that well, Dan? I was waiting for you to drink coffee before I asked you a question to make it awkward, by the way.
I think your numbers are pretty spot on. And yeah, I was at like 75%, 80% profit margin when I was a solo agent. When I had a small team, it got down into the 50s. When the team grew, it went down a little more. And yeah, so I think most big teams end up in the double digit percentages, but it's better than the brick and mortar broker margins, right? Those are like single digit margins, low single digit margins. So those are all really good points to think about when you're ultimately designing how you want to structure your real estate career.
Well, not just, your real estate career for sure, but also your financial future, right? You're a pathway to creating financial independence. I really want to ask a question about lead generation, because I know everyone's frothing at the mouth to know how your lead generation funnels work. That's agents always want to know about leads. So let's do that. Let's talk about your lead generation. And so here's the question, and then I'm going to ask you a second question. So if you were coaching an agent right now who's Dan Lesniak, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, and this agent were to ask you, what are the 2 or 3 primary sources of lead generation that I should focus on? I don't have a lot of money. I don't want to spend a lot of money. I don't have a lot of time for something to work. What should I be doing? And secondarily, then, I want to talk to you about your pathway from massive producer, single agent, to small team, to huge team, to independent broker, and now to what you're doing. So, and go for it.
Sure. No, I wrote in my book, I think the best way to approach, starting off or adding new business is to go through a process that I call segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So I think you need to look at your overall market, break it up into segments, pick your target segment, which I tell people, don't make it too big, right? That's, you don't want to try to go market to 10,000 homes when you're starting out. Define it more narrow, you can't be too small, but I've rarely met an agent that struggles with that. There has to be enough business there that if you became the top 1, 2, or 3 agents in that segment, it would give you a good income. And then positioning, how do you position yourself to that group of people that will add the most value? Now that a lot of people immediately go to geographic on that, which is natural and certainly can be done that way. You pick 1,000 homes that you're going to really dominate, right? Or 2,000 homes, but it can also be a prospecting technique, right? Like you can become the master of the FSBO market or the expired and withdrawn market. So if I were a new agent starting out, I would either pick a group of 1,000 homes that, I'm going to do door knocking, phone calling, direct mail, try to get emails, do email newsletter, or I would do a FSBO expired strategy. I think in particular in the next 12 to 24 months, I was actually just talking about this on my podcast with Tarek Al Musa. I think expireds are going to increase because sellers are probably used to the pricing from 3 to 6 months ago, and they're going to be stubborn about it at first. And it might take a listing or two to or agent or two that fails to get there, right? We've all heard the saying, or maybe some people haven't. In life, you want to be the firstborn son, second wife, or third real estate agent, right? So, if you're the third real estate agent to get that listing, chances are by that time they are going to be willing to sell it at a price that it will sell. So I think right now, I think that's something that people may have gotten away from in the last 2 years. There weren't a ton of expireds, right, in 2020 and 21. So maybe those are coming back. So I would pick, either a small, tightly defined geographic area, or expireds or withdrawns. And also don't forget about your SOI, right? Even when you're new, start telling, friends, family, past colleagues, people, like don't be the secret real estate agent.
I absolutely adore what you just said. Because first thing, centers of influence, past clients. So you have proactive and you have passive marketing, right? And I love what you were drilling down on expireds. Could not agree more. This is probably in the last, since like say 2008, this is going to be the best opportunity for expired hunting that there's ever been, for sure, for all the reasons you just said. And then if agents were to focus on becoming an expired hunter, right? Learn how to proactively lead generate, pre-qualify, present, negotiate, and lead follow-up, and focusing your best energies on going after expired listings, 100%. And number two, I love what you said about centers of influence and past clients. Those two things, take your time, do take some skill that you can learn on the job, but they don't cost you any money. And absolutely, positively, 100% agree. So Dan, you guys have been successful and ultra successful, I would say, in the industry. You guys were with Keller Williams, Keri was with Remax, you were with a different broker. You guys had obviously an enormous, very successful real estate team. You guys are in multiple states. You do apartment syndication, you do all the other things. You've been independent for a long time. You made a really big change in your business recently. What was that and why did you do it?
Yeah, so I decided to move to EXP Realty. Thanks to you. I wish you told me about it earlier, by the way. I always kind of tell people about that. But the reason is, EXP is the first brokerage at scale to eliminate the expenses, the cost, and, frankly, like the lack of innovation at what I call the big box brick and mortar brokerage model. So they've eliminated that expensive layer and replaced it with this virtual system. They were virtual before virtual became a thing. They were founded by someone who sold tens and tens of millions of dollars of real estate. That's kind of rare. Like there's a lot of founders right now that never sold a home. So, how can the company be designed for agents if that's, not the case? Like I don't understand that. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't understand that. I love the fact that they are agent owned, right? There's a ton of brokers out there that claim to be agent centric. EXP is agent owned. I think it's 70% of the company is owned by the agents or the founders. Most of these big companies are owned 10% or less by the founders and the agents. So what does that mean? You may think that's not a big deal. Well, I think it is a big deal. I think if 90% of the companies owned by Wall Street or foreign investors, like they don't have the agent's best interest in heart. It's profit, right? Profit minded. So I don't think you can be agent centric unless you're agent owned. EXP is the first company that has been agent owned at this scale that I've ever heard of. And lastly, there's a huge opportunity to participate in something called revenue share. I think it's really cool that EXP has was founded from the beginning with the discipline and commitment to operate. I think it's approximately half of the revenue, right? So what do they do with the other half of that revenue, or approximately that? Yeah. They give that back to the agents that grow it, right? Most brokerages, if you recruit another agent, maybe they give you a little bit off your cap that year, or, a few $1,000s or something, maybe, right? That's like the best case scenario. Well, at EXP, they reward you with ongoing revenue share, right? Depending on how many agents you bring on and how many they bring on. And I've done a ton of different businesses outside of just selling real estate, like joint ventures, developments, syndications, long-term rentals. I've got a bunch of short-term rentals, and I love the income that comes from that, but it doesn't come without headache. It doesn't come without putting in massive amounts of capital, time, liability, risk. I know you own a bunch of rental homes, and after looking at that, doing that, studying people at EXP, studying all different broker models, by the way, this is not a decision I took lightly. I don't think there's a greater passive income opportunity for the people that want to participate in it, which naturally can occur in your normal course of business of selling homes. I don't think there's a greater passive income opportunity in the history of real estate. And I think that's why this company has grown at the fastest pace in real estate history compared to any other brokerage ever. So
it's just getting started. And yeah, it's just getting started. EXP is in 22 different countries, and it is really truly, this is what I say, and this is really encapsulates it, at least for me. This is, for many of us, I'm 52, and you're not 50, you're 10 years younger than me basically. But for many of us, this is the last best business opportunity of our lifetimes. Now, I didn't say last business opportunity, because there'll be lots of those. Those always are coming at you. But the last best business opportunity, because if you look at Mr. MBA, you'll remember this better than me, the product adoption cycle, early adopters and then laggards and all the rest of it. If you look to see where EXP is in its growth curve, because I hear sometimes people saying, well, EXP, it's the best time to join is, 3 years ago or 5 years ago. Well, maybe that was a great time to join because you would have the benefit. But the fact is if you look at EXP's growth curve, it's just getting started. Across the country and really across the world, so many, you said it too, agent centric. That's so funny. Everyone says agent centric because they offer you marketing in your office, or they're going to have a barbecue on Saturday during the football game or whatever in the parking lot for the agents. That's okay. That's nice. Agent centric is where you put your money where your mouth is. You got revenue share. You've got obviously lots of ability to get stock awards, buy stock at a discount. You get health insurance. You get all these other different programs. There's an incredible relocation department that's about to open up. There's luxury that's about to open up. And the thing that's really fascinating to me is that so many massive agents like you and Keri are moving over to EXP. And it's not just agents and teams and brokers, but it's big brokerages as well. There's a lot of people whose franchise agreements are coming to an end, and they maybe were thinking that, well, I have to suffer having only 2 or 3% margins for my brokerage. You can actually do what you're doing, do what you love doing. Maybe there's aspects of your brokerage that you really love. You love working with the agents. You love mentoring agents. You love coaching agents. But the financial side of it is a little bewildering. And sometimes what people do is they get locked into this belief that it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Well, what if you could just take what you love the most about being a team leader, or being a coach, or owning a brokerage? Take what you love most and set the other things aside. And so when you're hearing from somebody like Dan and Keri, you've got to realize these guys have been up and down many mountains, not just one, and they're making the decision to move over to EXP. And Dan, you're a spreadsheet guy. I mean, you were trained to be a spreadsheet guy at Georgetown. So when you were doing the math on this, can you kind of get into the weeds a little bit and explain to the listeners? Like you even compared EXP. Let's not mention the other brokerages that you're comparing it against, but why, from a financial perspective, from an analytical perspective, right? Can you walk people through how financially this made more sense than being independent?
Well, I think, one kind of objection that, maybe or misconception, if call it, that I previously had, is that this is a recruiting company, right? Like they don't do sales, they just do recruiting. And I think it's important to address this, right? Less than 20% or less than 25% actually participate in the revenue share, right? So there's a lot of people out there that are, so what does that mean, right? That means like out of 80,000 agents, 60,000 or so are just there because it's a better brokerage model, right? Because it's saving them money. So, when I look at I've had several conversations the last few weeks with new agents, high producing agents, teams. And when I look at the numbers, like new agents are typically saving $20,000, $30,000, right? On the same amount of volume that they would do. Like we just talked to a high producer before the show that would probably save $150,000 a year. Right?
It was $150,000 in just the first 9 months of this year. So for the whole year, right, she'll probably save, being at EXP, put in her pocket around $200,000 extra.
Yeah, and then you look at, right. And that's like, even if you never recruit anyone else, which like, if you're doing that kind of business, it naturally will happen. People are going to be like, oh, well, if this person's there, I want to do it. Right. So, but even if that doesn't happen, you compound a 6-figure amount of money every year. It's millions of dollars if you have a 20-year career over the course of your, career. So there's a tremendous financial opportunity, financial savings. And yes, even independent brokerages, like, you no longer have to have the brick and mortar office. You no longer have to hire a broker. You get E&O taken care of. Here's the big savings. Like if you don't have to insert yourself into the legal contract and broker questions, how much more money are you going to save? Because now those efforts are diverted into the highest, dollar productivity hours, right? Which is recruiting people for your team and generating leads. If you can focus on that, let EXP take care of the operating system, if you will, the broker questions, the liability, the E&O, basically like keeping the lights on, right? If EXP does that and you're focused on generating sales and generating people to handle sales, how much more money are you going to make?
So you touched on quite a few things. First of all, just to, you said, and this is true, you don't have to recruit anybody at EXP, and it still makes incredible sense. If you just do the math on it, it's very simple. EXP is a home run for you, even if you don't want to recruit or sponsor anybody, even if you don't care about revenue share, that's fine. And the next thing you said is that EXP's revenue share does give you an additional pathway forward to build passive income into the future. Dan and I, Julie and I, Keri and Dan, they did it through rental properties. But the fact is that there's a lot of inherent risk and time and cost and liability that's associated with rental properties. With revenue share, when you're receiving revenue share, there's no cost against it. When you're receiving revenue share, there's no, you're not answering the broker agent questions. You're not really doing, once your group gets to a certain size, there's very few things that you're actually required to do. And when you get that wire transfer on the 20th of every month, it's, the seventh wonder of the world for sure. So here's something else I want you guys to listen to what he said. If you have a broker or a team, and right now, let's be honest, you might convince yourself that you like spending time on the nights and the weekends, and while you're, walking around downtown Paris on vacation, you might kid yourself that you like answering all your agents' questions about this, that, and the other. But wouldn't you just love to purge that from your life and still have the benefits of being an independent broker or team? Well, you can. Because when you move over to EXP, you're going to have their brokers that are going to be then responsible legally for answering all those questions. Now, some of you, and I totally respect this, Dan and Keri are similar. You guys you might have a very established brand. Keri Shull Team, very established brand. Well, that brand is going to stay the same. There is no, this isn't a franchise. The EXP is not going to roll in and say, change your signs, change your colors, answer your phone saying EXP Realty. None of that. This is not like you're walking and you're not becoming, Star Trek fans, right? I warned you, I was an introvert, which means I'm a nerd. So you're not going to all of a sudden find the big Borg cube, rolling into your front yard and trying to assimilate you into the system. Doesn't work that way. At EXP, they recognize you are the brand. EXP does not want to dominate you. EXP wants you to be the brand. And that means that if you have an established, like I've recruited several, large brokerages, And they didn't want to lose their brand. It was something that was generational, third generation, their grandfather started it, that sort of thing. Fantastic. Keep your brand. And what it's going to be, it's going to say, Bob Smith Real Estate in very small print, depending on how it works in your state. So that's something we have to be in compliance about. Brokered by EXP Realty. If you have a really great brand like these guys do, and you don't want to scuttle your brand, you don't want to mess with it, consumers recognize you as being the market leader, no worries. Keri Shull Team, brokered by EXP Realty. That's all it is. So a lot of times that will be something for a lot of brokers and teams and all the rest of it. You spent millions of dollars, some of you. You've taken lifetimes to build up this stature in the community. Of course we want you to keep it. Of course we want you to preserve that. That's what, one of the greatest, I think, if you think how simple that is, but how nobody else does that other than EXP, it's pretty miraculous, really. EXP doesn't want to dominate you. What EXP essentially it's like your professional operating system for your individual agent brokerage or, real estate practice or your big team real estate practice. We're the operating system. We're the backbone to make it so that you can essentially, sell as many homes and make as much money as you want to. Oh, and by the way, there's health insurance. Oh, by the way, there's, it's NASDAQ, it's publicly traded. Oh, by the way, you get stock discounts, you get stock awards. Oh, did we mention revenue share? So did I, anything else that I left out that was compelling to you when you were making the decision?
Well, two quick points. One, you mentioned they're on the NASDAQ, so which means you can look up their profit and loss statements, their financials, and, compare it to what other companies that are publicly traded are doing on the P&L side, right? They actually make a profit. So, which a lot of people can't say. I won't name any, but they are profitable, which means they are in a position to consistently deliver value to the agents. I think the other thing to point out, because we talked about branding a little bit, and there's this misconception out there that the brand of the broker matters, and I've never found that to be the case. I think maybe 20 to 30 years ago, there might have been an argument for that. Like maybe people back then, before the internet, before Zillow, they would call up the local office and say, "Hey, can I be assigned an agent?" Well, I've never found that to happen in selling hundreds and thousands of homes that where someone calls and asks for a certain brand broker agent. I was number one in my Century 21 office when I started off, did tons of volume at Keller Williams, and I never got a lead from the broker. And I'm not criticizing them for that at all. That's just not what they're designed to do. I think the branding, and this is coming out in a white paper that we're putting out soon, but the branding and lead generation and marketing, that is all at the agent and or the team level. If you're an independent, if you're a team leader, solo agent, like you are the brand, no one else is. And EXP does not interfere with that.
Matter of fact, not only not interfere with it, but they help you to scale it up. There's a whole marketing division inside EXP that agents have access to that will work for you for free. There's a tech team. If you like, I shouldn't laugh because I'm guilty of this as anybody, but if you're having problems with your own computer, you can actually log into EXP's tech team. They'll then get access to your computer and they're going to help you fix whatever the problem is. So for those of you who are you want to join a tech enabled brokerage, but you're personally not that tech enabled, I'm right there with you. Don't worry. Don't worry, the EXP has got you covered. It's interesting also what you said. You're right. I mean, when Julie and I were selling real estate primarily in the 90s, you would occasionally have a seller, we were with RE/MAX, call the RE/MAX office and say, I want to interview an agent. And the person at the front desk would have a list of who gets the next lead that comes in and all the rest of it. And then you'd be there and that same seller would have chosen an agent for RE/MAX, an agent from XYZ, and an agent from ABC. And we're going to make you guys compete who's going to get our listing. You're right. That doesn't happen anymore. Nowadays, what people are doing is they gravitate, and really that only lasted for maybe a year or two. And then it all started gravitating towards agent branding that dominated the markets around the country and the world, really. And so now, again, what EXP, so if you guys, Dan and I are drilling down on this, because for those of you who are stuck in this paradigm that your broker matters, and as far as marketing and lead generation, it really doesn't. And I'll prove it to you. It's very simple. Ask your last closings. Ask your last 5 closings, 10 closings. What broker you're with. Just ask them. Bet they don't know. Because they don't care. They chose to do business with you, not the broker. I know we're crossing lines with regards to the legal semantics, but I'm talking strictly from a marketing perspective. So yeah, I mean, the opportunity with regards to compounding your wealth. Oh, you said this other thing too. I think it's important to mention this. We're talking about revenue share again. The revenue share groups will grow. Like you'll get into EXP. Like we're just talking with that gal right before today's podcast, Dan. You'll get into EXP, and what you're going to discover is by you joining EXP, there's going to be people that are EXP curious, agents that are EXP curious at your old broker, maybe people you did co-ops with or things like that. They're going to ask you about EXP. They're then going to join EXP. You're going to be the person that answers the questions. You're going to be the person that sponsors them. And then by accident, in a lot of cases, you're going to all of a sudden start building revenue share. Now, am I oversimplifying it? I am not. Some of the largest revenue share organizations at EXP are, basically when you see the names of who they are, I promise you, you don't know their names. They're just normal agents. They're not, celebrities of any variety. They're normal agents who you've never heard of, who basically sponsored 5 people here, 5 people here, 5 people there. Those people sponsored people. And next thing you know, they're making over $1 million a year. You think I'm making this up? I'm not. And we'll be more than happy to prove it to you. So Dan, you're obviously moving over, EXP is your way forward for all the reasons we've discussed it. I think you will easily become one of the most prolific recruiters at EXP. I would be surprised if you didn't. Keri's reputation in the industry is second to none. So if anyone's out there that has a team or a brokerage that wants to join EXP, Dan, or an individual agent, right? It doesn't really matter. How can they get a hold of you? What's the simplest way?
Well, before I tell them that, which I gladly will do, I just want to say that what I also love about this model, specifically for me, is it really ties into a lot of the things I have done. I've spent a lot of years selling real estate, recruiting, training, building a coaching company, doing a podcast, building up social media, right? Well, now I can train other people into, how to do that. I can plug them into hyperfast agent coaching, give them that as a benefit of being in my group, right? I can get on the recruiting calls with them when they have interested people, or teach them how to do that. I've recruited hundreds of agents over the years, in our Washington, D.C. area. So I have passive investments. I know how to syndicate condo deals. These are all things that will be available to members in our group. We're going to train them how to do whatever they want, because we're going to do it at no cost, right? Normally you have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars a month to get these kind of benefits. They get all of that for free because I want them to grow. The bigger they grow, the bigger we grow. It's the first system of its kind in real estate at scale that's possible. So if you want to learn more about it, pick up your phone and send me a text message, 703-638-4393. That goes right to my cell phone, 703-638-4393.
And that's your real cell phone. It's not going to an AI bot. It's not going to somebody overseas that's going to answer your text for you. This is really going directly to you, correct?
Correct. It was right.
Well, get ready. You're going to get a lot of.
I'm going to answer it.
Yeah.
No, it's fun for me. I'm having the most fun that I've had in my real estate career, for sure. It's because I'm helping agents everywhere, so it's magical.
One of my EXP, soon be your EXP mentors, is a guy named Gene Frederick. And Gene was one of the first people. I think he joined EXP when it had 550 agents or something. And now, EXP has 84,000 agents. And he has a slogan. It's called "Making Real Estate Fun Again," and it really is. And the reason it makes it fun again, aside from all the benefits of EXP, is because you're around people who see a future that is so incredibly bright, that's not dependent on interest rates or home sales or politics. People, when you have the ability to do what you're doing at a high level, being supported at a high level, and then know that you can also create enough passive income that you don't have to wait until you're in your 60s to retire. I know people who are in their 30s who have been associated with EXP for less than 5 years who are effectively retired. And it's because you will be joining right at the perfect growth curve, and you will find agents everywhere that are EXP curious that definitely want to join you at EXP. this is like I said, the last best business opportunity of many of our lifetimes. I suppose if you're listening to us and you're 12 years old, you might have some others that pop up along the way that maybe are better. But right now, this is pretty much the last best business opportunity of all of our lifetimes. So Dan, if they want to talk with you about being sponsored by you at EXP Realty, get all the benefits of being associated with you and Keri and your coaching organization, and de facto be associated with Julie and I, and all the benefits being associated with us, right? So they get 2 benefits by being associated with our organization. How can they get hold of you? What was the cell phone number again?
Yeah, it was 703-638-4393.
All right. So next podcast I'm going to do with this guy. Here's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on the pillars of wealth creation and wealth preservation. And we're going to do this sometime in the next 30 days. We're going to talk about buying rentals. We're going to talk about VRBOs. We're going to talk about apartment syndication. And we're going to put all these together in such a way that you guys then can start creating more of a financial pathway forward with ultra clarity based on someone who's actually done it, not just somebody you're seeing on YouTube that, may or may not have actually done it. Dan, I really appreciate you being on our podcast. I certainly appreciate you guys aligning with Julie and I at EXP Realty. Listeners, again, if you want to get hold of Dan, if you want to join what probably will be one of the most successful real estate organizations of all time, Dan and Keri at EXP Realty. What's your cell phone number one last time?
It is 703-638-4393.
All right. Dan and I have to get on another Zoom call. You guys have a fantastic day.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim. This was a blast.
My pleasure.
All right.
Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right, and don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video, and remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.